Greatness is synonymous with divinity. God is supremely great and good. Greatness and goodness simply cannot be divorced. They are forever made one in God. This truth is literally and strikingly illustrated by the reflective interdependence of the secret of greatness and the soul of goodness, for neither can function without the other. In reflecting other qualities of divinity, the superuniverse econophim can and do act alone, but the reflective estimates of greatness and of goodness appear to be inseparable. Hence, on any world, in any universe, must these reflectors of greatness and goodness work together, always showing a dual and mutually dependent report of every being upon whom they focalize. Greatness cannot be estimated without knowing the content of goodness, while goodness cannot be portrayed without exhibiting its inherent and divine greatness. The estimate of greatness varies from sphere to sphere. To be great is to be godlike. And since the quality of greatness is wholly determined by the content of goodness, it follows that even in your present human estate, if you can through grace become good, you are thereby becoming great. The more steadfastly you behold and the more persistently you pursue the concepts of divine goodness, the more certainly will you grow in greatness, true magnitude of genuine survival character. As concerns the work of the voices of wisdom, what they do is to work out a dual, they do a stereophonic reflection job. I didn't have the word stereophonic back here. But it would have been used because they point their antenna toward paradise for paradise wisdom, and then outward into time and space for practical wisdom, and then they emulsify the two. And I fancy that that counsel may at times be helpful to us. And then the soul of philosophy, they teach that the unions of souls, they're the folks who do a job that doesn't even have to go into a conciliating commission. They're practical counselors, functioning on a sub-legal level. This is not a court case. This is a problem arising between two people who should cooperate better. The heart of counsel apparently mostly work for the divine counselors, but the joys of existence, they do something for us. Their principal activities are directed toward promoting reactions of joy among the various orders of the angelic hosts and the lower will creatures. They function as joy clearinghouses, seeking to upstep the pleasure reactions of the realms, while trying to improve the humor taste, to develop a super-humor among mortals and angels. They endeavor to demonstrate that there is inherent joy in free will existence, independent of all extraneous influences, and they are right, although they meet with great difficulty in inculcating this truth in the minds of primitive men. The higher spirit personalities and the angels are more quickly responsive to these educational efforts. They're talking about the union of souls. These are the angels who foster and promote the teamwork of all Arvantan. One of the most important lessons to be learned during your mortal career is teamwork. The spheres of perfection are manned by those who have mastered this art of working with other beings. Few are the duties in the universe for the lone servant. The higher you ascend, the more lonely you become when temporarily without the association of your fellows. The last group do not have too much to do with us. They're attached to the universal sensors, and they are capable of identifying the nature of any being. Then going back to page 343, when spirit development is complete, even though not replete, then the surviving mortal prepares for the long flight to Vivona, the haven of evolutionary spirits. On Earth you were a creature of flesh and blood. Through the local universe you were a Morantia being. Through the super universe you were an evolving spirit. With your arrival on the receiving worlds of Havona, your spiritual education begins in reality and in earnest. Your eventual appearance on paradise will be as a perfected spirit. The journey from the paradise headquarters to the universal receiving spheres is always made alone. From now on, no more classes or group instructions will be administered. You are through with the technical and administrative training of the evolutionary worlds of time and space. Now begins your personal education, your individual spiritual training. From first to last throughout all of Havona, the instruction is personal and threefold in nature: intellectual, spiritual, and experiential. The first act of your Havona career will be to recognize and thank your transport Sekanafim for the long and safe journey. Then you are presented to those beings who will sponsor your early Havona activities. Next, you go to register your arrival and prepare your message of thanksgiving and adoration for dispatch to the Creator Son of your local universe, the Universe Father who made possible your sonship career. This concludes the formalities of the Havona arrival, whereupon you are accorded a long period of leisure for free observation, and this affords opportunity for looking up your friends, fellows, and associates of the long ascension experience. You may also consult the broadcasts to ascertain who of your fellow pilgrims have departed for Havona since the time of your leaving Uversa. The fact of your arrival on the receiving worlds of Havona will be duly transmitted to the headquarters of your local universe and personally conveyed to your seraphic guardian wherever that seraphim may chance to be. You know, there are sentimental touches in here that are very moving to me. They don't have to do that. This doesn't add anything to your paradise ascent or to that seraphim's career. But what a nice thing to do. And we'll pick up the story on page 290. The pilgrims of time are transported past the dark gravity bodies of Havona to the outer planetary circuit by the transport personalities of the primary order of Sekanafim, operating from the headquarters of the seven super-universes. A majority, but not all, of the seraphim of planetary and local universe service who have been accredited for the Paradise Ascent will part with their mortal associates before the long flight to Havona, and will at once begin a long and intense training for supernal assignment, expecting to achieve as seraphim perfection of existence and supremacy of service. And this they do, hoping to rejoin the pilgrims of time, to be reckoned among those who forever follow the course of such mortals as have attained the Universal Father and have received assignment to the undisclosed service of the core of the finality. On the Morancha spheres, the attending seraphim, there are two of them, are your open companions. These angels not only consort with you as you progress through the career of the transition worlds, in every way possible assisting you in the acquirement of Morancha and spirit status, but they also avail themselves of the opportunity to advance by study in the extension schools for evolutionary seraphim maintained on the mansion worlds. The human race was created just a little lower than the more simple types of the angelic orders. Therefore, will your first assignment of the Morancha life be as assistants to the seraphim in the immediate work awaiting at the time you attain personality consciousness. Before leaving the mansion worlds, all mortals will have permanent seraphic associates or guardians. And as you ascend the Morancha spheres, eventually it is the seraphic guardians who witness and certify the decrees of your eternal union with the thought adjusters. Together they have established your personality identities as children in the flesh from the worlds of time. Then, with your attainment of the mature Morancha estate, they accompany you through Jerusalem and the associated worlds of system progress and culture. After that, they go with you to Edentia and its 70 spheres of advanced socialization, and subsequently will they pilot you to the Melchizedeks and follow you through the superb career of the universe headquarters worlds. And when you have learned the wisdom and culture of the Melchizedeks, they will take you on to Salvington, where you will stand face to face with the sovereign of all Nebadon. And still with these seraphic guides follow you through the minor and major sectors of the super-universe and on to the receiving worlds of Uversa, remaining with you until you finally end Sekanafim for the long Havona flight. Some of the destiny guardians of attachment during the mortal career follow the course of the ascending pilgrims through Havona. The others bid their longtime mortal associates a temporary farewell, and then, while these mortals traverse the circles of the central universe, these guardians of destiny achieve the circles of Seraphington, and they will be in waiting on the shores of paradise when their mortal associates awaken from the last transit sleep of time into the new experiences of eternity. Such ascending seraphim subsequently enter upon divergent services in the finaliter core and in the seraphic core of completion. The seraphim, the master seraphim of planetary supervision that we've been talking about, the religious guardians, the angels of progress, are members of this seraphic core of completion. They've made the paradise ascent. Man or angel may or may not be reunited in eternal service, but wherever seraphic assignment may take them, the seraphim are always in communication with their former wards of the evolutionary worlds, the ascendant mortals of time. The intimate associations and the affectionate attachments of the realms of human origin are never forgotten, nor ever completely severed. In the eternal ages, men and angels will cooperate in the divine service as they did in the career of time. For seraphim, the surest way of achieving the paradise deities is by successfully guiding a soul of evolutionary origin to the portals of paradise. Therefore is the assignment of guardian of destiny the most highly prized seraphic duty. Only destiny guardians are mustered into the primary or mortal core of the finality, and such pairs have engaged in the supreme adventure of identity at oneness. The two beings have achieved spiritual biunification on Seraphington prior to their reception into the finaliter core. In this experience, the two angelic natures, so complemental in all universe functions, achieve ultimate spirit two-in-oneness, repercussing in a new capacity for the reception of and fusion with a non-adjuster fragment of the Paradise Father. And so do some of your loving seraphic associates in time also become your finaliter associates in eternity, children of the Supreme and perfected sons of the Paradise Father. The pilgrim lands on the receiving planet of Havona, the pilot world of the Seventh Circuit, with only one endowment of perfection of purpose. The Universal Father has decreed, "Be you perfect, even as I am perfect." When through and by the ministry of all the helper hosts of the universal scheme of survival, you are finally deposited on the receiving world of Havona, you arrive with only one sort of perfection of purpose. Your purpose has been thoroughly proved. Your faith has been tested. You are known to be disappointment-proof. Not even the failure to discern the Universal Father can shake the faith or seriously disturb the trust of an ascendant mortal who has passed through the experience that all must traverse in order to attain the perfect spheres of Havona. By the time you reach Havona, your sincerity has become sublime. Perfection of purpose and divinity of desire, with steadfastness of faith, have secured your entrance to the settled abodes of eternity. Your deliverance from the uncertainties of time is full and complete, and now must you come face to face with the problems of Havona and the immensities of paradise, to meet which you have so long been in training in the experiential epochs of time on the world schools of space. Faith has won for the ascendant pilgrim a perfection of purpose, which admits the children of time to the portals of eternity. Now must the Supernavim, the pilgrim helpers, begin the work of developing that perfection of understanding and that technique of comprehension which are so indispensable to paradise perfection of personality. Ability to comprehend is the mortal passport to paradise. Willingness to believe is the key to Havona. The acceptance of sonship, cooperation with the indwelling adjuster, is the price of evolutionary survival. When we go through Havona, we have 3 people attached to us. This is besides our teachers. This is known as the transit trio. We have 1 graduate guide and 1 Havona servitor who go through with us, go through the entire Havona career with us. And on each circuit, we get a secondary supernative who travels with us all through that circuit. You'll recall that there are 1 billion worlds in Havona, and we spend some time on each world. And since each of these worlds is like no other Havona world, how long would you like to spend exploring, let's say, this world if you had the time and means? Would 100 years be enough? Well, if you spend 100 years on each Havona world, you are going to spend 100 billion years going through Havona. And maybe you'd rather spend 10 times that long. That would be 1,000 billion years, or 1 trillion years. Or maybe you'd really like to settle down and enjoy one of these worlds for a longer time. On page 269, they talk about the graduate guides, who is a group. Sponsor and conduct the High University of Technical Instruction, spiritual training, which is so essential to mortal attainment of the goal of the ages, God, rest, and then eternity of perfected service. These highly personal beings take their name from the nature and purpose of their work. They are exclusively devoted to the tasks of guiding the mortal graduates from the super-universes of time through the Havona course of instruction and training, which serves to prepare the ascending pilgrims for admission to paradise in the core of the finality. The graduate guides are engaged in piloting the pilgrims of time through the 7 circuits of Havona worlds. The guide who greets you upon your arrival on the receiving world of the outer Havona circuit will remain with you throughout your entire career on the heavenly circuits. Though you will associate with countless other personalities during your sojourn on 1 billion worlds, your graduate guide will follow you to the end of your Havona progression and will witness your entrance into the terminal slumber of time, the sleep of eternity transit to the paradise goal, where upon awakening you will be greeted by the paradise companion, assigned to welcome you and perhaps to remain with you until you are initiated as a member of the mortal core of the finality. Graduate guides never leave the Havona worlds. They are dedicated to the service of the graduate pilgrims of time and space, and you will sometime meet these noble beings face to face if you do not reject the certain and all perfected plan designed to effect your survival and ascension. Both spirit servitals and their more physical fellows are also designated assistants and associates of the graduate guides in helping and instructing the various orders of ascending creatures who have attained Havona and who seek to attain paradise. And then the paper goes on to discuss how the great affection between the servitals and the guides, probably because the guides are transmuted servitals. I think of these Havona servitals as being quite analogous to the spiranga found in the local universe, Morantia life. We should turn back still farther to 288. We should pick up the story of the tertiary supernative. They don't work directly with us, but they are the general ministering spirits in Havona. Tertiary supernative. They start out with the harmony supervisors, and it's their job to keep everything moving along smoothly and expeditiously. They have a great ability to coordinate a diversity of activities involving personalities of different orders, even multiple levels. And it enables these supernative to give assistance whenever and wherever required. They contribute enormously to the mutual understanding of the pilgrims of time and the pilgrims of eternity. You'll recall that when mortals first started ascending Havona, Paradise citizens simultaneously started descending Havona, starting from the innermost circuit and moving outward. And then there are the chief recorders. They're the broadcasters and the messengers and the intelligence coordinators. And they're the wise and sympathetic promoters of the fraternal association between ascending and descending pilgrims. They minister to all the inhabitants of Havona, and especially to the ascenders, by keeping them currently informed regarding the affairs of the universe of universes. By virtue of personal contacts with the broadcasters and the reflectors, these living newspapers of Havona are instantly conversant with all information, passing over the vast news circuits of the central universe. They secure intelligence by the Havona graph method, which enables them automatically to assimilate as much information in 1 hour of Urantia time as would require 1,000 years for your most rapid telegraphic technique to record. That's real recording. These are the ministering spirits that we'll encounter in general in Havona. And now we're back on the pilot world. We've been greeted by Graduate Guide and his associated servitor. We've also been greeted by that secondary Sakanapim of the Order of Pilgrim Helper, who is assigned to us to get us through the outer belt of Havona worlds. We'll discover that this Pilgrim Helper is a being of quick understanding and broad sympathy. He's one of the high ministers who begin their work simultaneously, his colleagues begin their work for the Paradise Pilgrims of Eternity, the first of whom arrived on the pilot world of the inner Havona circuit, concomitantly with the landing of Grand Fenda on the pilot world of the outer circuit. Back in those far distant days, the pilgrims from Paradise and the pilgrims of time first met on the receiving world of circuit number 4. They give us our assignment in 3 major divisions. First, the supreme understanding of the Paradise Trinity. Second, the spiritual comprehension of the Father-Son partnership. Third, the intellectual recognition of the infinite Spirit. Each of these phases of instruction is divided into 7 branches of 12 minor divisions of 70 subsidiary groupings. And each of these 70 subsidiary groupings of instruction is presented in 1,000 classifications. More detailed instruction is provided on subsequent circles, with an outline of every Paradise requirement is taught by the Pilgrim Helpers. That, then, is the primary or elementary course, which confronts the faith-tested and much-traveled pilgrims of space. But long before reaching Havona, these ascendant children of time have learned to feast upon uncertainty, to fatten upon disappointment, to enthuse over apparent defeat, to invigorate in the presence of difficulties, to exhibit indomitable courage in the face of immensity, and to exercise unconquerable faith when confronted with the challenge of the inexplicable. Long since, the battle cry of these pilgrims became, in liaison with God, nothing, absolutely nothing, is impossible. There's a definite requirement of the pilgrims of time on each of the Havona circles. And while every pilgrim continues under the tutelage of Supernafim, by nature adapted to helping that particular type of ascended creature, the course that must be mastered is fairly uniform for all ascenders who reach the central universe. This course of achievement is quantitative, qualitative, and experiential, which is to say, intellectual, spiritual, and supreme. Time is of little consequence on the Havona circles. In a limited manner, it enters into the possibilities of advancement, but achievement is the final and supreme test. The very moment your superaphic associate deems you to be competent to pass inward to the next circle, you will be taken before the 12 adjutants of the 7th Circuit Spirit. Here you will be required to pass the test of the circle determined by the superuniverse of your origin and by the system of your nativity. The divinity attainment of this circle takes place on the pilot world and consists in the spiritual recognition and realization of the master spirit of the ascending pilgrim's superuniverse. When the work of the outer Havona circle is finished and the course presented is mastered, the pilgrim helpers take their subjects to the pilot world of the next circle and commit them to the care of the supremacy guides. The pilgrim helpers always tarry for a season to assist in making the transfer both pleasant and profitable. And then we're on the 6th circle. We're working with the supremacy guides there. And it's here in this circle that we achieve a new realization of supreme divinity. Throughout their long careers in the evolutionary universes, the pilgrims of time have been experiencing a growing awareness of the reality of an almighty over-control of the time-space creations. Here on this Havona circuit, they come near to encountering the central universe source of time-space unity, the spiritual reality of God the Supreme. We nearly meet him. I'm somewhat at a loss to explain what takes place on this circle. No personalized presence of supremacy is perceptible to the ascenders. In certain respects, new relationships with the 7th Master Spirit compensate this non-contactability of the Supreme Being. But regardless of our inability to grasp the technique, each ascending creature seems to undergo a transforming growth, a new integration of consciousness, a new spiritualization of purpose, a new sensitivity for divinity, which can hardly be satisfactorily explained without assuming the unrevealed activity of the Supreme Being. To those of us who have observed these mysterious transactions, it appears as if God the Supreme were affectionately bestowing upon his experiential children, up to the very limits of their experiential capacities, those enhancements of intellectual grasp, of spiritual insight, and of personality outreach, which they will so need in all their efforts at penetrating the divinity level of the Trinity of Supremacy to achieve the eternal and existential deities of paradise. When the Supremacy Guides deem their pupils ripe for advancement, they bring them before the Commission of 70, a mixed group serving as examiners on the pilot world of Circuit number 6. After satisfying this commission as to their comprehension of the Supreme Being and of the Trinity of Supremacy, the pilgrims are certified for translation to the 5th Circuit. Here on the 5th Circuit, they meet the Trinity Guides, who are the tireless ministers of this aspect of Havona training. The spiritual graduates are here designated candidates for the deity adventure, since it is on this circle, under the direction of the Trinity Guides, that the pilgrims receive advanced instruction concerning the Divine Trinity in preparation for the attempt to achieve the personality recognition of the Infinite Spirit. And here the ascending pilgrims discover what true study and real mental effort mean as they begin to discern the nature of the still more taxing and far more arduous spiritual exertion that will be required to meet the demands of the high goal set for their achievement on the worlds of this circuit. Most faithful and efficient are the Trinity Guides, and each pilgrim receives the undivided attention and enjoys the whole affection of a secondary supernative belonging to this order. Never would a pilgrim of time find the first approachable person of the Paradise Trinity, were it not for the help and assistance of these guides and the host of other spiritual beings engaged in instructing the ascenders respecting the nature and technique of the forthcoming deity adventure. After the completion of the course of training,
On this circuit, the Trinity guides take their pupils to the pilot world and present them before one of the many triune commissions, functioning as examiners and certifiers of candidates for the deity adventure. These commissions consist of one fellow of the finaliters, one of the directors of conduct of the order of primary superlative, and either a solitary messenger or a trinitized son of paradise. When an ascendant soul actually starts for paradise, he is accompanied only by the transit trio, the superathic circle associate, the graduate guide, and the ever-present servital associate of the latter. These excursions from the Havona circles to paradise are trial trips. The ascenders are not yet of paradise status. They do not receive residential status on paradise until they have passed through the terminal rest of time subsequent to the attainment of the Universal Father and the final clearance of the Havona circuits. Not until after the divine rest do they partake of the essence of divinity and the spirit of supremacy, and thus really begin to function in the circle of eternity and in the presence of the Trinity.
Why are those in quotes?
Essence of divinity, spirit of supremacy, they're attaching special meaning to those English words. What is the essence of divinity? They don't define it. They merely say this is something special that changes. Actually, Ruth, what they're talking about is the terminal sleep, together with the complement of rest at the end of the Havona career. And it's here that we actually are eternalized, you might say. We're just time visitors on paradise. We don't have eternity status on paradise. The ascender's companions of the transit trio are not required to enable him to locate the geographic presence of the spiritual luminosity of the Trinity. Rather, to afford all possible assistance to a pilgrim of time in his difficult task of recognizing, discerning, and comprehending the infinite spirit sufficiently to constitute personality recognition. This is a minimal achievement. Any ascendant pilgrim on paradise can discern the geographic or locational presence of the Trinity. The great majority are able to contact the intellectual reality of the deities, especially the third person. But not all can recognize or even partially comprehend the reality of the spiritual presence of the Father and the Son. Still more difficult is even the minimum spiritual comprehension of the Universal Father. The fourth Havona circuit is sometimes called the Circuit of the Sons. From the worlds of this circuit, the ascending pilgrims go to paradise to achieve an understanding contact with the Eternal Son. While on the worlds of this circuit, the descending pilgrims achieve a new comprehension of the nature and mission of the Creator Sons in time and space. There are 7 worlds in this circuit, on which the reserve corps of the Paradise Michaels maintain special service schools of mutual ministry to both the ascending and descending pilgrims. And it is on these worlds of the Michael Sons that the pilgrims of time and the pilgrims of eternity arrive at their first truly mutual understanding of one another. In many respects, the experiences of this circuit are the most intriguing of the entire Havona sojourn. The Sun Finders are the superathic ministers to the ascending mortals of the Fourth Circuit. In addition to the general work of preparing their candidates for a realization of the Trinity relationships of the Eternal Son, these Sun Finders must so fully instruct their subjects that they will be wholly successful, first in the adequate spiritual comprehension of the Son, second in the satisfactory personality recognition of the Son, and third in the proper differentiation of the Son from the personality of the Infinite Spirit. After the attainment of the Infinite Spirit, no more examinations are conducted. The tests of the inner circles are the performances of the pilgrim candidates when in the embrace of the enshroudment of the deities. Advancement is determined purely by the spirituality of the individual, and no one but the gods presumes to pass upon this possession. In the event of failure, no reasons are ever assigned. Neither are the candidates themselves, nor their various tutors and guides, ever chided or criticized. On paradise, disappointment is never regarded as defeat. Postponement is never looked upon as disgrace. The apparent failures of time are never confused with the significant delays of eternity. When the pilgrim soul attains the third circle of Bhavana, he comes under the tutelage of the Father Guides, the older, highly skilled, and most experienced of the superaphic ministers. On the worlds of this circuit, the Father Guides maintain schools of wisdom and colleges of technique, wherein all the beings inhabiting the central universe serve as teachers. Nothing is neglected which would be of service to a creature of time in this transcendent adventure of eternity attainment. The attainment of the Universal Father is the passport to eternity, notwithstanding the remaining circuits to be traversed. It is therefore a momentous occasion on the pilot world of circle number 3, when the transit trio announce that the last venture of time is about to ensue, that another creature of space seeks entry to paradise through the portals of eternity. The test of time is almost over. The race for eternity has been all but run. The delays of uncertainty are ending. The temptation to doubt is vanishing. The injunction to be perfect has been obeyed. From the very bottom of intelligent existence, the creature of time and material personality has ascended the evolutionary spheres of space, thus proving the feasibility of the ascension plan, while forever demonstrating the justice and righteousness of the command of the Universal Father to his lowly creatures of the worlds. Be you perfect, even as I am perfect. Step by step, life by life, world by world, the ascendant career has been mastered, and the goal of deity has been attained. Survival is complete in perfection, and perfection is replete in the supremacy of divinity. Time is lost in eternity. Space is swallowed up in worshipful identity and harmony with the Universal Father. The broadcasts of Havona flash forth as space reports of glory. The good news that in very truth, the conscientious creatures of animal nature and material origin have, through evolutionary ascension, become in reality and eternally the perfected sons of God.
It's a nice funeral.
That's the finish line. No. That's not the end of the story, though. But from here on, it's a downhill pull. Here's where we crest the divide. And this is why the third circle of mortal attainment is so important here on earth. It's analogous to the third circle in Havona. When you reach the third circle, when you reach the third circle, you are cresting the divide of mortal progress. From here on, it's a formality. The adventure is over. The superaphic counselors and advisors of the second circle are the instructors of the children of time regarding the career of eternity. The attainment of paradise entails responsibilities of a new and higher order, and the sojourn on the second circle affords ample opportunity to receive the helpful counsel of these devoted supernatum. For the successful pilgrims on the second circuit, I turn the page. The stimulus of evolutionary uncertainty is over, but the adventure of the eternal assignment has not yet begun. And while the sojourn on this circle is wholly pleasurable and highly profitable, it lacks some of the anticipative enthusiasm of the former circles. Many are the pilgrims who at such a time look back upon the long, long struggle with a joyous envy, really wishing they might somehow go back to the worlds of time and begin it all over again.
Gee, this is a kind of a gimmick, isn't it? I didn't know this was going to happen.
Of course you didn't. Just as you mortals in approaching advanced age sometimes look back over the struggles of youth and early life and truly wish you might live your lives over once again. But the traversal of the innermost circle lies just ahead, and soon thereafter the last transit sleep will terminate, and the new adventure of the eternal career will begin. The counselors and advisors on the second circle begin the preparation of their subjects for this great and final rest, the inevitable sleep, which ever intervenes between the epochal stages of the ascendant career. When those ascendant pilgrims who have attained the Universal Father complete the second circle experience, their ever-attendant graduate guides issue the order admitting them to the final circle. These guides personally pilot their subjects to the inner circle, and there place them in the custody of the complements of rest, the last of those orders of secondary supernatum assigned to the ministry of the pilgrims of time on the world circuits of Avona. You'll recall we've skipped over the disappointments of those who fail, but you will remember what happens to them. These disappointed pilgrims are sent out into that super universe which will be most beneficial in making up the deficiency in their experience. And when they return the second time to Avona, they never fail. If a deficiency is revealed, it is always corrected on the first make-up course. Much of an ascender's time on the last Avona circuit is devoted to a continuation of the study of the impending problems of paradise residents. A vast and diverse host of beings, the majority unrevealed, are permanent and transient residents of this inner ring of Avona worlds. And the commingling of these manifold types provides the superathic complements of rest with a rich situational environment which they effectively utilize in furthering the education of the ascending pilgrims, especially with regard to the problem of adjustment to the many groups of beings soon to be encountered on paradise. This is sort of a Avona parallel of our experience with the unification. It's here that we encounter large numbers of the creature trinitized suns. They evidently are pretty concentrated on this inner group of Avona worlds. Mortals have received the paradise command, be you perfect even as your paradise Father is perfect. To these creature trinitized sons of the conjoint core, the supervising supernafim never ceased to proclaim, be you understanding of your ascendant brethren, even as the paradise creator sons know and love them. The mortal creature must find God. The creator son never stops until he finds man, the lowest will creature. Beyond doubt, the creator sons and their mortal children are preparing for some future and unknown universe service. Both traverse the gamut of the experiential universe, and so are educated and trained for their eternal mission. Throughout the universes, there is occurring this unique blending of the human and the divine, the commingling of creature and creator. Unthinking mortals have referred to the manifestation of divine mercy and tenderness, especially toward the weak and in behalf of the needy, as indicative of an anthropomorphic God. What a mistake. Rather should such manifestations of mercy and forbearance by human beings be taken as evidence that mortal man is indwelt by the Spirit of the living God, that the creature is, after all, divinity motivated. unless they've done time, so to speak. The atoms usually have to serve on a world. The